Hello everyone, this is part 3 of What If Naruto Trained with the Akatsuki, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Tsunade lifted her head from her desk. What am I to do, Shizune? Don't be too hard on yourself, Tsunade-sama. It's not your fault. Shizune replied, making an effort to comfort her superior. Not my fault. Not my fault. It was all my fault. Because of me, Rock Lee is S. We weren't in time to capture Naruto or save Sasuke. We would have caught him if it hadn't been for that lake. That was where Pakken lost his scent. Look on the bright side, your teammate is coming back to Konoha for a couple of weeks. How long has it been? Ah yes, Jiraiya. It's been a long time, I wonder how he's been doing. When is he coming again? Shizune took out a calendar, let's see, He will arrive in 2 days. When does the funeral end? Tsunade asked, leaning back in her chair sighing. It has already ended. I believe they are burying Lee as we speak. What am I to do? I'm at a terrible position right now. Just wait until Jiraiya-sama comes. Maybe he will help. Maybe you're right, maybe he will know what to do. I just wonder what Sandaime would do in my position. Neji stayed in his fighting position, careful not to let his guard down. He knew that Tenten would strike any second now. But she wasn't in range of his vision with his Byakugan. Neji didn't expect to see Hiashi coming towards him. Hiashi came, signaling peace. All I want to do is talk. Neji tried to blow him off, saying, I'm training right now, leave me alone. Neji, please understand, it was my brother's choice to do what he did. I'm very sorry, you and me, we have potential, I've already exceeded mine. But you still have much to go, come, let me train you, under my training, you will become the best Hyuga around. I'm a legend, I'm betting you can surpass me in a few years. Just please, let this dispute between us end, come to a complete stop. Neji thought for a moment, then said softly, I'll need some time. Hiashi smiled and said, then time you shall have. He walked off through the forest happily, and forgiven. Tenten jumped down from a near branch. Why did you let him come? Neji asked. I thought you needed to talk. And apparently I was right. Tenten answered. You were listening. A little. Let's go, Tenten. I think I will retire for the rest of the day, I have many things to think about. Neji suggested. I was just about to say that. But what do you think is going to happen to our team? Neji shook his head. I don't know, I suppose they will assign us a new teammate, the question is, who? I wonder if they will assign us a new sensei as well. Neji, don't even think that. Well, it's true. You've seen Guy Sensei, he's devastated, completely devastated, let's just go. The two Genin followed the path that Hiashi took to get out of the forest. They each then returned to their homes. The Hokage will see you now, replied one of the Konoha guards to a tall-built man. The man walked through the door to meet Tsunade to tell her about his problem. The tall man was tanned, with gray hair and a white goatee. His eyes were the color of blue and he wore casual clothes. I'm glad you could arrange your schedule in order to see me. I come from the Boar country. The man said. The Boar country? That's a little far, don't you think? Tsunade asked, amazed. I know it would seem that way, but my village has sent me to seek help. This is an A-rank mission according to your standards. I would like you to send some extremely powerful shinobi to complete this. If it's an A-rank mission, then why should I send my best shinobi? Some of my chunin could complete A-rank missions. Tsunade answered. It looks like an A-rank mission to your village, but to me, it seems even higher than S-rank. You see, the feudal lord in my village has been doing some dealings in secrecy. Every time somebody came close or did discover what he was doing, they would magically disappear. That went on for 3 years, nobody wanted to do anything about it, for fear of getting K. That was until a few weeks ago. He then finally revealed his evil plan. He said he had been dealing and transporting a lot of smuggled drugs. And that he had eventually through time put it in our water supply. The effect of the drug has not been able to happen yet, because it needs to be activated by some kind of powder. That powder is really hard to find, so he sent a couple of his skilled shinobi to find it. But when they do find it, and activate the drug which everybody has in their body by now, we will all become mind zombies to do the feudal lord's will. The village managed to arrange 3 people to leave the village. So it was me, and my 2 other companions that volunteered. We were to travel to Konoha to seek out very strong shinobi to stop the feudal lord. My 2 other companions were S. One was buried alive, and the other one was tortured to death after he wouldn't tell them anything. They know that I'm still out here, so now I'm a target of the feudal lord. And our only hope of survival. Please, I ask of you to send your strongest shinobi to complete this mission. The old man explained sadly. Tsunade thought for a few minutes while the whole room was silent. Then she said, "Give me 2 days, and you shall have your team. Within 2 days, you will set out back to your village, and you will also be protected throughout the whole time. Then the team will settle matters in your village so peace may be restored once again." How does that sound? The old man bowed in thanks and said, "Thank you, Hokage-sama. I and my village are forever indebted to you. There is one thing though, the feudal lord now has many people working under him. Probably a few hundred. Please send at least more than 1 team just to make sure. I will decide what is enough and not enough. For now you just go stay in a hotel, we will gladly pay for your stay. Please enjoy yourself here the best you can, it'll be 2 days before you know it, and you will already be at your village at peace." Tsunade said as the tall white bearded man left the room to go stay at a hotel. When everybody had left the room but Tsunade and Shizune asked, "Tsunade-sama, doesn't Jiraiya-sama come in 2 days?" Tsunade put her hands together and smiled deviously, "Precisely. 2 days later. Open the gates. Open the gates now. One of the 3 Sannin has arrived," said a shinobi guarding Konoha's gates. The large gates of Konoha village opened and 2 people stepped in. 1 old man, and 1 teenager. The old man had long hair, he wore a red vest and a grey long-sleeved shirt under. He had a somewhat headband but it was larger and it had some writing on it instead of the village symbol. He had a red line coming down from each eye, it almost looked as if they were straight paths of tears. The teenager had black spiky hair, he wore a black robe with red lining at the ends of it. They both wore the same sandals. But the teenager had a long scar starting from between his eyebrows, to the middle of his nose, then it continued off to the side over his cheek and finished at the end of his jaw. Tsunade came to greet Jiraiya personally along with Shizune. Tsunade greeted Jiraiya, then looked down at the teenager that followed him. "Jiraiya, can I talk to you for a second? Alone?" The 2 Sannin went to a room alone and began to talk. "I see you have brought excess luggage since we last met, Jiraiya. Still a stubborn old hag, aren't you? He is my apprentice. He has an incredible amount of chakra for his age, and a lot of potential. He's very competitive, and wants to fight anybody who he thinks is strong. His name, Uzumaki Ketsu." Jiraiya explained. "Uzumaki, huh? Sounds familiar somehow. How old is the boy?" Tsunade asked. "He's 15, I found him when he was 5, I've been training him ever since. He's extremely strong. Probably the strongest teenager around." "I doubt it," Tsunade said. "What did you say?" Jiraiya asked, frowning. "I'm saying that there probably is one teenager that's even younger than him and stronger than him." "Oh yeah? And who might that be?" Jiraiya asked, not believe Tsunade. "Naruto. He works for the Akatsuki and he's 13. Ever heard of him?" Tsunade shouted angrily. "Ah yes, I remember now. Ketsu wants to fight him more than anything. He says he's stronger, they somehow resemble each other in a way. As for me, I don't believe any 13-year-old can defeat Ketsu, including Naruto." "Well, why don't we test the boy's strength?" Tsunade asked, already creating a plan in her head. "What do you mean? I know you 2 have just arrived, but let's see if he can handle an S-rank mission." "Of course he can, but," Jiraiya was off by Tsunade's overwhelming voice. "If he can, then go. I will assign him a team, temporarily of course. Then him and his team will go with Kakashi and escort a man who is wanted. The mission is dangerous. The man will inform the team later. But now, go back to Ketsu and tell him he's going on a mission." Tsunade demanded. "When does the mission start?" Jiraiya asked, sighing. "Now," Tsunade shouted. Jiraiya came out of the building him and Tsunade were in and went to his apprentice. Ketsu, you have a mission to do. I know you just got back, but it's a very difficult mission, and the Hokage wants you to go on it. You will be accompanied by 2 other people and Kakashi, who is extremely strong. Yes, sir, was all that Ketsu said. He waited standing straight at the gates, waiting for his 2 teammates. So you are our new teammate, huh? Tenten asked, walking alongside Neji and Kakashi. Ketsu nodded, and the 4 shinobi set out by sunset along with the tall man they were protecting. Let me tell you something, Tsunade, I have very high hopes for that boy. Jiraiya said as he and Tsunade watched Ketsu and his team leave the village from a window. Well, what do you expect? That boy's a prodigy. He will surpass our Sannin level by far soon enough, it's only a matter of time. He's got the potential, he has the will to do it too. Only a matter of time. I don't know why the Hokage would only send 4 people to protect me. I mean, 3 of them are kids, for Pete's sake. This won't be enough to stop the feudal lord. Oh my, I don't know how we are going to survive. I mean, he has. The tall man running alongside of the 4 shinobi was interrupted by Neji. The Hokage is good at her job, do not doubt her. If she says this will be enough, then this will be enough. It is our job to protect you and carry out the mission. We will and have put our lives on the line, ready to do what is necessary in order to successfully complete this mission. Have faith in us. We didn't really get your name. Shinobu Anuga. I guess you're right, I will have faith in you all. I believe you can help and save my village. I am only here to wish you good luck. Anuga said with a smile as he continued to run alongside the 4 shinobi. Anuga, so tell us, when did he send the person to retrieve the activation powder? Kakashi asked. Well, he sent the person out about 4 days ago. There is not telling when he will be back. For all we know, he could be back already. Who knows what we'll find when we get back to the village. It is after all, a 3-day travel, Anuga said sadly. Not if we hurry, Tenten shouted. They all broke out into a much faster pace. How's your stamina? Kakashi asked. Oh, actually, very good. Our village has long races from country to country, taking weeks to finish. I run them. I usually place above 5th place. In fact, I may even be able to run the whole way if I really tried. But then I would be extremely exhausted from no eating or drinking nor sleeping. But I can do it. Anuga answered. Good, we will stop only to eat and drink. We will sleep 4 hours at the most each day. Is that alright with everybody? Kakashi asked again. Everybody nodded and Ketsu was silent. They all continued at the pace they were going for the rest of the day. Kakashi, Tenten said, gasping for air, still running 10 hours later. I must take a break. I cannot continue for much longer. Very well, Kakashi said as they all stopped. It was now completely and had been dark in the sky for many hours. The sun will rise soon, but we can rest for about 1 hour. After all, it is safer to travel during the daytime. Is everybody okay? I'm fine, I little tired, but rest is looking pretty good right now. Anuga responded. Neji and Ketsu were silent, however, they did not look tired at all. Ketsu-san, I realize you have not talked at all ever since we left Konoha, which was a long time ago. Kakashi said, addressing Ketsu. Ketsu still did not say a word, he merely ignored the white-haired man, and sat down with his eyes closed. Ah, meditation. Great idea, but a bit cold to do that, don't you think? Anuga asked Ketsu, hoping that he would get an answer. Ketsu didn't budge at all. They all rested for about 30 minutes. When it was time to leave, everybody opened their eyes and got up. They each noticed Ketsu was missing. I have not seen him around anywhere. Tenten said. We cannot risk this, but I will not leave a teammate behind. Kakashi exclaimed. You two will escort Anuga to his village, I will catch up with you later, and Ketsu will be with me. There is no need, Anuga said, smiling. He was looking up, straight at a tall tree, where Ketsu sat high above them. He jumped down from the tree, and spoke. Didn't you know to hide yourself even if you were resting? Nobody said nothing after that, they all simply continued the journey for a few more hours. A few more hours and we will be coming up on my village. Anuga shouted. Ketsu stopped. Everybody stopped right after. What's wrong? Anuga asked. Each shinobi looked at each other. Tenten, Neji, Ketsu. Watch over Anuga, I'll be right back. Kakashi demanded. What's wrong? Anuga asked again. We sense trouble. And Kakashi's gone to take care of it, Neji said, activating his Byakugan. He and Tenten surrounded Anuga looking outwards, ready to protect him at all costs. Ketsu simply walked toward the direction Kakashi was going. Ketsu-san. Kakashi gave us strict orders to stay and protect Anuga. Tenten shouted. Ketsu turned around, there's no need to protect him, if the enemies are eliminated now is there. He then continued and disappeared through the forest. Ketsu. Tenten shouted at one last attempt for him to return. That boy, who knows what goes on in his head, Anuga said shaking his head. Neji and Tenten didn't have to do much, because Ketsu and Kakashi came back a few minutes later. Kakashi was shouting at Ketsu, giving him an angry lecture. Don't ever do that again. You could have destroyed this whole forest, any less experience, and you would have caused total chaos. And don't ever disobey my order again. I told you I would take care of it. I know the way you see it, but that's not the way this works. I don't know what Jiraiya-sama taught you, but stick to what the rules are. When I tell you to stay put, stay put. You could have put us all in jeopardy. Our mission is to protect Anuga and bring peace to his village by taking out the feudal lord. How are we going to successfully complete that, if Anuga-s? Ketsu stayed silent, with his arms crossed. He looked normal, almost as if he were ignoring Kakashi. When Kakashi had cooled off, they continued on their journey. They were now in the Boar country, headed for the Numi village. They arrived at the break of dawn. Happy that they had successfully made it. Now they just needed to overthrow the feudal lord. What happens if you go in alone? Kakashi asked Anuga. Well, I will immediately be captured and killed by the feudal lord's guards. They are out to get me. Well then, looks like you won't be going in alone. Kakashi said. At that time, Ketsu once again had disappeared, however, nobody had noticed. They all came up to the gate and expected for it to open. But it didn't move at all. I suppose maybe that Anuga was set off by the sound of the gates finally opening. The three shinobi present each got ready to fight. They finally were able to see the inside of the Numi village, as well as the person who opened it. Ketsu. They entered and looked around at the 15 guards all unconscious on the ground. Good work Ketsu, Kakashi said silently. Alright, Anuga, we will closely be watching you from the rooftops, so you will have to be alone at this point. Lead us directly to the feudal lord's house. Kakashi demanded as the four shinobi each jumped swiftly to the rooftops following Anuga as he walked along the streets of his village. It wasn't too long before Anuga had led them to the feudal lord's house. After all, it was the biggest one by far in the whole village. It was also not long before 5 guards came out, each of them, very large and muscular, holding katanas wearing purple robes. They all ran at Anuga taking out their swords. Tenten, Neji, Kakashi, and Ketsu jumped down to take one for each of them. But that still left another one. Tenten dashed to the side and dodged an attack from the incoming sword. She then threw a kunai straight at her opponent's hand. It connected, causing the huge man to drop his sword. She then quickly dashed at him, and repeatedly threw flying kicks to his face, finally defeating him and leaving him unconscious. Neji simply ducked and dodged the attack coming at him, and gave 6 kicks to the stomach and his opponent was out. Ketsu managed to time his attacks and right before the sword hit his face, he pushed it outwards leaving an open attack. He then punched his enemy and that was the end. They all turned around to witness something they did not expect. Anuga jumped up and over his opponent, giving a kick to the back of his enemy's head. When he landed, he rushed at the huge man, and slid under the swiping of the sword and gave a hard kick to his knee. The man dropped his sword and fell to the ground screaming in pain. Anuga stood up and looked back at his protectors. I know a little self-defense, he explained. Then everybody turned to the clapping noise that came from the feudal lord house's direction. There they saw a man with a very long black beard, and very elegant clothes applauding them. Feudal lord, Anuga shouted completely surprised. Don't be alarmed Anuga, I am here, as I always was. But I am sorry to tell you that you are too late. Just a few hours too late in fact. Everybody in the village is now under my control. The feudal lord said smiling. Ketsu smirked and laughed. The feudal lord turned around to see Ketsu behind him. You are the worst liar I've ever met. If what you say is true, then Anuga would already be under your control. He then punched the well-dressed man. Poof! The feudal lord disappeared and reappeared on the rooftop. He knows ninjutsu? Neji asked. Oh yes, Anuga shouted, he was directly trained by one of the Tsuchikages. He is very powerful. The feudal lord removed his robes to show what he was wearing under armor. He was ready to fight. Guards! He shouted. Suddenly, at least 75 guards appeared, each surrounding the 5 people. The activation powder will arrive any minute now. We will all do our best to K the people who stand in our way of control. The feudal lord shouted, K them. The guards all charged as the feudal lord himself dashed on the rooftops attempting to escape the battle scene. However, Kakashi was right behind him. Neji and Tenten fought around Anuga, trying their best to protect him. Occasionally, one would slip past the guard, and Anuga would take care of him. Ketsu was taking everybody on all at once. Only using taijutsu, taking everybody out in one blow. He continued to fight, until there were too many. He eloped to the rooftop, where a woman, the only woman soldier, followed. She smiled, holding her sword tightly ready to fight. Do you really think you'll get past me? Well, let's find out. Ketsu said as the woman charged straight at him. He only dodged her attacks, not laying a hand on her body. Every time the woman failed to land a blow, she was angered more and more. But Ketsu would not lay a finger on his opponent, only dodging her swift attacks. Tenten caught sight of this, and she took a sword from one of her opponents. Ketsu! She shouted as he caught the sword that was thrown at him. He was now dodging as well as blocking her attacks, parrying them. They jumped back at one moment. Now that I have this weapon, please understand, I will not hesitate to K you, woman or not, you are still my enemy. You have seen that you are clearly no match for me, please, do not make the mistake of fighting, I do not want to end your life. Ha, you think you can beat me? I'll show you how to really use a sword. She then took her sword, and kneed the handle, splitting it into 2 blades. One in each hand. Humph, neat trick, but it won't help. Ketsu stated. I'll decide that. And with that, the woman charged Ketsu, screaming her head off in rage. She jumped up, and whirled around in the air, swinging her swords. As soon as Ketsu tried to block her attack, the first block immediately shattered his sword. The second strike came down very quickly. Ketsu barely managed to dodge it. He jumped back and tossed away the handle he was holding. Still think you can beat me? The woman said, smiling. Without a doubt. The woman charged again, doing the same move, spinning in the air, swinging her swords. She looked like a tornado of blades. But Ketsu had already seen that move, and he knew how to counter it. He jumped on his hands and did a backflip to get away from the woman. She only followed him, constantly spinning. Ketsu sighed in sadness. Very well, he said. This was your choice. Rasengan. A blue sphere of chakra appeared in his hand and he threw it at her. The Rasengan shattered both her swords and hit her body, driving her off the roof and into the crowd. Ketsu looked down, and everything was under control. Neji and Tenten did not need his help. So he dashed off, to see if Kakashi did. Kakashi followed the feudal lord until the very last part of the village. Kakashi and his opponent finally stopped, each standing on opposite rooftops. They faced each other. The feudal lord smiled, then said, so how do you plan to win this? Kakashi lifted up his headband so that it was now straight, exposing his Sharinganai to the cold air. With this, he said. The feudal lord bowed his head for a moment, then smiled even more. Ooh, Sharinganai. Could you be? No, the legendary copy ninja. Hitaki Kakashi. That would be me. Ha, ha ha. Well, that might make this fight a bit more interesting then. Let's play, shall we? The feudal lord jumped high up into the air, lifting his hands up. The rooftop tiles came apart and came up into the air alongside of him. There were hundreds of tiles all over. He then pointed at Kakashi, and every single tile flew straight at him. Kakashi stepped back a few steps, then concentrating on dodging each one that came at him, and blocked them as well. He was doing extremely well, but what he didn't notice was that the flying tiles were a distraction, and now the feudal lord was right behind him. It was too late when Kakashi noticed. The feudal lord pointed his hands down at Kakashi's feet, and shouted, Ganseki Busu. All of a sudden, a clayish rock substance appeared on the roof and wrapped itself around Kakashi's feet, ankles, and shins, resembling firm boots made out of rock. Kakashi was then unable to move as every single tile left hit his body. Kakashi was left there standing, as the feudal lord walked around him out of his arm-length's reach. My, I didn't think you would be so easy to defeat. I suppose I will never find a challenge. He sighed, then continued. I stopped fighting because there was nobody worth fighting. I thought that maybe you group from Konoha would do good against me. But look at you now, ready to S within 10 seconds of the battle. Kakashi, you disappoint me. I thought you would be stronger than that by now. Use your Sharingan for Pete's sake. I mean. Okay. Ganseki Busu. Kakashi shouted, pointing at the feudal lord's feet. Once again, the clay substance came out of the roof and hardened around the feudal lord's legs. The Kakashi that had performed the jutsu with a poof, and the real one appeared at a rooftop behind the feudal lord. Kakashi smiled. A ninja must look underneath the underneath. I only did what you told me to do, use my Sharingan. The feudal lord laughed. Ha, 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 ha. I was fooled by the easiest trick in the book. I thought too advanced, thinking of all the moves you could do, thinking of how I would counter it and use it against you. But all you do is copy my ability, and use it against me. I can't believe I almost fell for such a trick. Almost. Kakashi asked, staying alert. Yes, almost. I may be stuck, but that doesn't mean I still can't use jutsu. I still have my hands, don't I? Ganseki Hiryu. Just then, a humongous serpent dragon appeared from under the ground, destroying houses and breaking the feudal lord free from his imprisonment. The feudal lord climbed aboard the dragon's head, riding it as it flew towards Kakashi. The dragon made of the earth could have easily swallowed Kakashi. Kakashi dashed from rooftop to rooftop, jumping down to the empty streets and back up to the rooftops again just to avoid the dragon that pursued him. Unfortunately, the dragon was faster than him, so it was gaining distance very quickly. Kakashi then jumped and landed on his left hand. In his right hand, he carried his most used technique, the Chidori. He let the dragon catch up. When it did, he jumped from his upside-down position to the tip of the dragon's nose, barely avoiding its mouth. He drove his hand full of blue lightning through the snout and ran towards the feudal lord, dragging his hand through the dragon's head. Kakashi then took out his hand from its head, and swung his arm around, attempting to drive his technique into his opponent's stomach. It all happened so fast. At the end of it all, Kakashi looked down at his legs as the headless dragon crashed down to the ground. He saw his arm inside his own chest. And then he realized that at the last second, the feudal lord managed to save himself and also was able to lead Kakashi to drive the attack into his own chest. But the feudal lord was not able to do that untouched. Some of the technique had pushed against his stomach. It created a wound semi-deep but deep enough that he could see his muscle. Kakashi fell to the ground. The feudal lord jumped back, exhausted from summoning the dragon, and from his new wound that he had just received. He jumped on the rooftop in order to escape, but apparently the battle was not over. Where are you going? Said a voice different from Kakashi's. The wounded feudal lord turned around slowly to see one of the children that had accompanied Kakashi on the mission. Ketsu smiled, pumped up and ready to fight. He then looked down at his wounded leader. Looks like I'll have to finish this quickly, he said with a sigh. He stepped forward toward his opponent. You honestly think you can defeat me, when your master has failed? Well, considering that you're wounded, and that I could have beaten you when you were still completely regenerated, I would say, yes. Ketsu said, still closing in on the feudal lord. Very well, I shall make your death a quick one. Bomu Rasengan. Ketsu shouted as he stuck out his arm with his hand spread out. A tiny red ball of chakra 1/4 the size of the regular Rasengan appeared floating steadily in Ketsu's hand. He threw it at his opponent. That was the end of the battle. Once the small red ball connected with the feudal lord's body, a great explosion immediately occurred. The explosion was so large that it caused about 5 houses to be disintegrated. Ketsu was able to get Kakashi back to Neji and Tenten. They had finished their part by taking care of every soldier present. Anuga looked up at Ketsu and Kakashi. Thank you all, very much. Is there any way that we could possibly nurse Kakashi here? He won't make it riding all the way back to Konoha. Ketsu asked. Why, of course. Hurry, we must not waste any time, for it is too precious. Each second that is gone, means more B that is lost. Hurry, this way. Anuga shouted, leading them to another large building. There Kakashi was rushed to a room where they were able to school his wounds back up and nurse him back to health. Neji, Tenten, and Ketsu stayed by Kakashi's side for 5 days. Until he finally opened his eyes again. 1 day more, and the 4 of them were back on their feet again. They were off, back to their village, having completed their mission successfully. Halfway on the journey home, they spotted a hot spring in the night time. It's best if we get back to the village as soon as possible, Kakashi said, urging for them to move on without stopping for relaxation at the hot springs. You guys go, I think I will stay, Ketsu said. So the 3 shinobi left him as they headed back to their village, and Ketsu entered the hot water. There was steam everywhere, so hardly anything was visible, just the stars above him. But he did notice that one other person was there, relaxing in the water as well. Nice night out, huh? The person asked in a friendly tone. Sure is, Ketsu said, smiling as he looked up at the billions of stars that crowded the beautiful night sky. So what brings you out here in these parts? The person asked again. Just got back from a mission, I figure it's best if I relax, Ketsu replied. Alone? Yep. Everything was silent for a few minutes. Finally, a cold wind picked up a little bit and cleared away the steam that shrouded their vision. Finally, Ketsu was able to see who he was talking to. He was talking to another boy, probably 1 or 2 years younger than himself. The boy had blonde hair, and a faint hint of whiskers on his cheeks. The blonde boy also had blue eyes, just like Ketsu did. Then it struck Ketsu, that this person, the teenager relaxing in front of him, was none other than Naruto, who had murdered many people and worked for the Akatsuki. Ketsu gave Naruto a cold look, one resembling hate. He got up, tying a towel covering his lower parts. So that's how it is, Naruto said, doing the same. They both stood clothed in only a white towel, standing 50 feet away from each other, still in the water that was up to their knees, both in their fighting positions, facing each other in anger. Jiraiya, Tsunade, as well as everybody else in the village waited eagerly inside the gates of Konoha for the arrival of the team. Kakashi, Neji, and Tenten had finally arrived, weary from the journey home. They had left Ketsu behind, just like he had asked him to. They entered their sweet home and everybody cheered. Jiraiya frowned. He walked up to the team and asked, "Where's Ketsu?" He asked to stay behind on the return home. He decided to stay at a hot spring. He should be arriving about an hour from now. He can't be too far behind. He'll arrive shortly, Kakashi said, walking off. That was an irresponsible thing to do, Kakashi, and you know it, Jiraiya said, not looking back. Kakashi said nothing, and walked off. There was a long pause as Ketsu and Naruto stared down each other. It was like a starring contest between them. The two of them glaring at them as if a simple look could kill. Ketsu and Naruto were around the same height. The hot water sank up to both their knees. Ketsu stepped up so that his foot was outside of the water. Then he placed the bottom of his foot at the surface, using it as a step to lift his other foot and stand normally. Now he was not in the water, but standing on it. Naruto stood alert as Ketsu stuck his hand out in front of him. Ketsu opened up his hand and stared intently at the water. Mizu. Bomu Rasengan. After the shouting of the jutsu, everything was silent, everything was still. The only thing that was heard was the small voice of the wind, whistling past the two great shinobi teenagers. Then the explosion came. An underwater explosion right in the place of Naruto. Every single drop of the hot springs was gone and now everywhere in the atmosphere. Ketsu jumped back, having initiated the battle with his exploding technique. Rasengan A. Naruto asked from behind Ketsu. Ketsu whirled around with two blue Rasengans in each of his hands. He swung his arms and threw the blue chakra sphere directly at Naruto. Naruto only put out both of his hands and caught each of the Rasengans, crushing them with his hands. You're going to need more than that to beat me. How about this? Ketsu shouted as a tiny red Rasengan appeared in his hand. He ran towards Naruto, attempting to drive it into Naruto's head. Naruto simply moved out of the way with such speed, grabbed Ketsu's wrist, and drove the tiny red Rasengan into the ground where it exploded, leaving a huge crater. Ketsu got up because he was knocked from the blast. He looked around. Naruto was on the other side of the crater. You're very powerful, but you have too little experience with your jutsus. You still need much more practice. Come, Naruto said, extending his arm with his palm upwards, gesturing for Ketsu to come to him. I'll make you regret saying that, Ketsu shouted as he ran down the crater and up again to reach his opponent. Ketsu jumped up and extended his leg out, trying to kick Naruto. Naruto moved aside and gave 3 blows to Ketsu's stomach. Ketsu fell to the ground but got back up again, wiping himself off. I'll KO you, Ketsu shouted. Your trash talk does not intimidate me, anger also solves nothing, Naruto said calmly. Look how angry you are, and how much you've accomplished, but I didn't expect you to be that good anyway. Shut up. I've trained my whole life, I will KO you, I'll show you my power, and make you eat your own words. Don't tell me what to do. Ketsu ran once again to Naruto, but 10 times faster this time. He threw a punch at Naruto's face. Naruto blocked it with his right hand, and tried to punch Ketsu's stomach with his left. Ketsu spun around to his right so that he was now behind Naruto. He jumped this time, landing a kick to the side of Naruto's head. Naruto was sent flying into a nearby tree. How does that feel? Ketsu asked, smiling but also panting. Naruto stood up, still calm. He wiped the bee off from the side of his mouth, and said, impressive, but your kick is weak. Good for your age though. This statement only angered Ketsu more. He once again dashed at his opponent with a regular Rasengan in his hand. Is that all you know how to do? Rasengan again. Haven't you seen that it doesn't work against me? Here, let me show you, Naruto said as he watched his opponent's anger rise and rush at him. Naruto stuck out his hand and created a Rasengan himself. He rushed at Ketsu too. They came together, their Rasengans both colliding with one another, creating yet another explosion, sending each of them flying back. They both got up at the same time. See, Naruto said, putting his towel back on for it had fallen off. You can't beat me. You said that I can't beat you with just Rasengans. That's not the only moves I know at all. I'm just testing your strength. I suppose I could go a step further and try a little harder, Ketsu said with a smile. Finally, Naruto said, rolling his eyes. Ketsu jumped up into the air, doing 3 flips, biting his thumb until B appeared, and then doing a set of hand seals, shouting, Kuchio's no jutsu. He landed on the ground, punching his open palm into it. Suddenly, the ground shook, and poof, a humongous frog appeared in front of Naruto as Ketsu stood on its head. The frog was at least 125 meters tall and wore a blue robe with whites at the tips. The huge frog also carried a sword at its side. Ah, Ketsu. Why do you summon me? The frog asked. I need your help, Gamma Bunta-sama. You see the person in front of you? Ketsu asked. Gamma Bunta looked down at Naruto. That is Naruto, he's wanted for murder and he is in the Akatsuki. It is my duty as a shinobi and a good person to take him down. Can you help me? He's in the Akatsuki. That small fry. Alright, Ketsu, if you say so. Humph, this is going to get interesting. This won't be too much of a problem, size won't matter here. You still won't win at all. Naruto lifted his left hand high into the air, 2 fingers pointing straight at the black sky full of stars. Denku Gufu no Jutsu. Suddenly, a small spark of electricity appeared right around the 2 fingers pointing straight up. Then more streaks of lightning began to appear. Naruto then crouched down low to the ground and swung his left arm with his 2 fingers still out and swung it around in a circular motion once, so that his 2 fingers that carried the electricity was about an inch from touching the ground. Then he brought his arm back up again and took his right arm and brought it straight up as his left hand, now full of lightning streaks surrounding it, came down. The lighting in his left arm transferred to the air right in front of him, spinning at a faster pace every second. Until finally, it became a tornado made of lightning. It kept spinning faster and faster, growing with each moment it spun. Until finally, it was bigger than Gamma Bunta himself. This might hurt, Naruto said to Ketsu as he brought his right arm straight out in front of him so that it was pointing straight at the large frog. The tornado just sped at Gamma Bunta and Ketsu. Poof! The frog disappeared at once as soon as they had collided. Ketsu was then sucked in the tornado, spinning around and around, getting E. Naruto then released his jutsu and let Ketsu fall from way above back down to the ground. Ketsu lay there for a moment, then got up. Pretty good, but still won't be good enough. Then let us continue, Naruto said without expression. They both jumped up at each other and were about to connect. until there was an interruption. They both felt it, but couldn't see it. Something had passed right between them, just before they were able to hit each other. They stopped and landed back to the ground. They then both looked to their left to see a red-haired girl with a bandana. She wore very weird clothes, and back boots. She wore mostly blue, but everything seemed so mismatched. She also wore black gloves on each hand. Sorry to be interrupting anything, just thought I'd drop by to have a little fun. Yeah, just a little fun, said another voice. This time it was a man. He had light brown hair. He appeared behind Naruto and Ketsu. They turned around. He wore a very large jacket and regular shorts. He also had a staff on his back. We saw a fight, so we decided to join in. Yet another voice spoke, this time, right in front of Ketsu and Naruto, just a few feet away from them. The man had blue hair, and wore regular shinobi uniform, like what Kakashi usually wore. Maybe we weren't interrupting a battle. You guys are in nothing but towels, and there is no water around, said the girl. All three of the strangers were not old at all, but very young. The hot springs water is gone, Ketsu said, glaring at them. Let us introduce ourselves, said the brown-haired man. My name is Guru. I have trained with the 5 best samurais in the world for all of my life. I specialize in the staff. My name is Kyosaku. Just Kyosaku. I've been a pirate all of my life, the pirate girl said. I'm Tsukomi Guru. The 3 of us make up the Tenushihai. The blue-haired guy said. Tenushihai? Naruto asked. Well, we haven't known each other for that long. But we planned to. There was a large tournament, anybody could enter. People from all around the world came. Americans too. The 3 tournament winners would become a 3-man team winning lots of money and the tile of Tenushihai. We travel around Japan looking for fights. But so far, we haven't found any tough ones. We saw you guys fighting, so we decided to fight. So how about it? Want a little match? Guru asked. It'll be fun, Kyosaku said, smiling. Trust me, we're pretty good. You won't regret it. I'm betting we can beat you. That was random, Naruto said. But no thanks, we would just like to continue our match, or I would like to go home. Come on, shouted Ru, pulling out his staff and spinning it in fancy ways. Look at it this way, you can either fight back, or let us beat you. It doesn't matter what you do, the outcome will be the same. But we are going to attack, Guru said. Ru dashed towards Naruto, attempting to strike him on his shoulder. Naruto jumped back, but Guru was waiting. He gave a hard kick straight to Naruto's back, sending the blonde boy flying. Naruto landed on the ground and got up. He witnessed the 2 shinobi do the same to Ketsu. Looks like we won't be able to win this alone. How about a team? Naruto proposed to Ketsu. Just as long as I get to KU afterwards. I'm not going to let these freaks beat me, Ketsu answered angrily. Yeah, can we put our clothes on first? Naruto asked. We've decided to give you guys a challenge. Well, if you put it that way, then sure, go ahead. Not like it'll make a difference, Guru said. Ketsu and Naruto then put on their clothes, Naruto with his Akatsuki cloak, and Ketsu with his black and red robes. Okay, ready, Naruto said, smiling. Kyosaku then suddenly brushed past Naruto, appearing in front of him. Just like you can tell how we fight by our standing posture, I can tell you how you fight, by what's in your pocket, she said as she held out her arm carrying the beige bag that Chiyoba had given Naruto. Hey, give that back right now, Naruto shouted, now aggravated. I'll give it back to you when you beat us. If you beat us, Kyosaku answered with a grin. Well then I guess you brought this upon yourself, Ketsu said. Let's go. Ketsu dashed at Ru, who managed to dodge every punch and kick that Ketsu threw. And Ru also took advantage of every chance that he got. Whenever there was an open space, he would take it and strike Ketsu. Naruto was taking on Kyosaku and Guru at the same time. Take this, Rasengan, Ketsu shouted. But Ru blocked the blue sphere with his staff. He pushed back Ketsu. Use something else, Naruto shouted to Ketsu as he landed a punch to Kyosaku's face. Yes, got it back. Take that, Kyosaku. But it was too soon to celebrate, because Guru was still there. Huja. Guru shouted as he his fist, which held a kunai, into Naruto's cheek. Naruto, Ketsu shouted. He rushed to his teammate, who was now on the floor. Naruto got up and touched his cheek. A green light appeared as the hole closed up and looked as if nothing had happened. You're going to pay for that, Naruto said. This isn't a game anymore. You can't do anything anyway. Each one of us are just as strong as each of you. And it's 3 against 2, so how can you win? Ru asked. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto shouted as many Narutos appeared surrounding everybody. Now it's 502 against 3. I guess you're outnumbered now. All the Narutos said, smiling. Then they all rushed in against their opponents. Poof, 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 poof. There were poofs everywhere as each one of the Bunshins failed to defeat their enemy. Ketsu watched in amazement. For a second, Ketsu thought that Naruto's amazing jutsu was going to be a waste, since none of the Narutos were even landing a blow. But soon enough, Ketsu heard Naruto's voice, loud and clear, shouting, Ginpai no Jutsu. All of a sudden, Ketsu jumped up to the tip of the tallest tree nearest to him. He barely managed to avoid the incoming spikes that came up about 6 feet high, and were extremely sharp. Every Naruto disappeared with a poof. And all Ketsu could see was spikes all the way to the horizon and beyond. Then the spikes sunk back into the ground. Wow, pretty good, Guru said, panting. Ketsu looked down at him as well as the other 2 of his teammates. But you're going to have to do better than that to beat us, Ru said, smiling. The Bunshins were a great distraction. As were the spikes, Naruto said as he appeared right in front of the Tenushihai. A distraction? Kyozaku asked, surprised. Precisely. You always need to have a backup plan if it doesn't work. You're trapped, don't you see? Naruto explained. They looked down at their feet, which was now glued to the ground with an invisible substance. But it was strong, because none of them were able to move their feet. Now all of you are trapped, and I still have a teammate, as well as myself. And that leaves you, powerless. Great strategy. But as you said, always have a backup plan. Guru said, and here's mine. Then he held his breath and frowned. He became angrier and angrier, growling. Until finally, Naruto and Ketsu could see the outline aura of Guru's lime green chakra. Guru's pupils then turned from circles to slits. And he managed to break free of Naruto's binding spell, with just brute force. Guru went down on all 4s, and his chakra overwhelmed him, taking shape of a wolf with 8 tails. A demon, eh? Naruto asked. This is going to get really hard. Guru's transformation was still not complete. He grew fangs that reached all the way down past his chin. His nails transformed to claws, and he became much more muscular. His ears also became slightly pointy. I'm impressed. Let's see how well your demon powers work out for you. Let's play, shall we? Naruto asked. Guru then rushed at Naruto, running on all 4s. Naruto did the same. They each ran at the same speed. But Naruto ran on his 2 legs. Guru jumped up about 10 meters before they collided. He flew through the air like a bullet, tripling his speed. Before Naruto took 1 step, Guru had already covered the 10 meters that were left and was at Naruto's chest. Powerful now, aren't we? Naruto said, frowning. But once again, you have fallen for my trap, a different one this time. What? Guru asked, angrily, screaming. I'm not in any trap. Where? Boom. The tiny red Rasengan which Ketsu had gently lay on the grass exploded as Guru stepped on it while looking around. Yet another crater was formed. Naruto stood next to Ketsu as they watched Guru get up, not in demon form any longer. Since Kyozaku and Ru were released from the binding jutsu, they rushed to help Guru. They all smiled. This was fun. A worthy battle indeed. Kyozaku exclaimed happily. Truly. Ru agreed. Yeah, this was fun. We should do this again sometime. Naruto said, nodding. Very well, until the next time we meet, friends. Guru said. You can call me Naruto, and him Ketsu. Naruto said. The Tenushihai left the 2 teenager shinobi to themselves. So what now? Ketsu asked. You wanted to fight me, didn't you? I don't know, I'll let you decide. Naruto said. I think I can let you go and make an exception this time. But this will be the first and last. Next time, no interruptions, and you will go down. Ketsu said. I expect you to be stronger the next time we meet. Naruto said, smiling as they both parted opposite ways. Ketsu finally arrived at the village, his clothes dirty. Ketsu, why did you choose to stay behind? Jiraiya asked, shouting and scolding his apprentice. I felt like a bath. Ketsu answered. Much good it did, look at you. What were you doing? Not much. Jiraiya sighed. Ketsu, I know you know how to take care of yourself, but I cannot risk you going anywhere alone. Don't forget, there are S-class criminals on our tail. Just because we completed missions in the past, doesn't mean that everything is alright. You must be alert at all times. I don't want you to use the jutsu I taught you, not unless it is completely necessary. I know, Ketsu said frowning. Let's rest, you haven't had that yet. You're late, Itachi said coldly. I know, I was held back. Naruto said. Any problems? No, not really. Good, because I have your next mission for you. Take a look at this. Itachi said, holding out a folder and handing it to Naruto. What's this? Naruto asked, opening the folder. A file of you, victim. Your mission is to bring him back here, alive. He is one of the very few demons that are still out there. We need to extract it as soon as possible. Naruto looked at the file. He flipped through the pages until he found a large photo. His name, Tsukomi Guru. Itachi said. You start tomorrow. Remember, bring him back here, alive. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.